Philia Adenauer, the strongest saint in over 1,000 years, never really lived a life of her own. She had no dreams, no hobbies, not even a favorite food. Abandoned by her parents and raised as nothing more than a holy tool, she was worked like a slave in a kingdom that only saw her as a mere replacement. So when her pathetic fiancé son, Prince with half a brain, dumped her for her sister, claiming she had more charm, Philia barely flinched. Sent away to a foreign land like she was nothing, she expected more of the same. But fate had other ideas. After all, one kingdom's trash just might be another kingdom's treasure. This world is filled with monsters and demons, and to protect the nations from these threats, there are women called saints, and every country needs at least one saint to save them from the monster attacks. In the kingdom of Gertonia, there's a saint named Filia, rumored to be the greatest saint of all time. As she gets back, everyone begins to talk about how she went to save the Northwest from the monsters. There's quite literally nothing she can't do, except for one thing: smiling. Everyone is terrified of her because of her deathly expressions. But Filia, the 28th saint of the kingdom of Gertonia, has never smiled.
Konnichiwa.
As she walks through the streets, her charm catches the eye of a young man, who proceeds to inquire about who she is. The shopkeeper tells him that she's their saint, and Gyrotonia has two saints, Saint Mia and Saint Filia. He describes Saint Mia as a bliss to eyes, a treasure to them and loved by all. But Saint Filia is Mia's older sister, who is way more gifted than Mia. Meanwhile, Filia gets approached by multiple people for their tasks to be solved. And even with the most impossible tasks, Filia never backs down and ends up cracking the code to them. The shopkeeper continues telling the young man about their land. How Gyrotonia was a barren land, lacking most natural resources, but Filia in no time fixed it. But along with that, Filia has quite some people around her who resent her secretly. As Filia gets back home, she goes to see her mom. It turns out she has mommy issues. As soon as her mother sees her, she begins to scold her for taking too long for completing a single task, and compares her to her sister Mia, who isn't an incompetent loser in her eyes. Plus, she compares how Mia is always charming and smiling, who stands closer to being a saint in people's eyes rather than Filia. She scolds Filia for the cold expression she is always wearing on her face at the tea parties, and people complain about her attitude a lot. Silently, Filia apologizes, but her mother warns her to work on her personality rather than studying medicine all the time, and proceeds to call her arrogant. It seems like her mother only cares about the image she carries. As her mother leaves, she wonders about how she has worked hard, yet she has always ended up being ostracized. She has never known how to smile, and this is why her parents always preferred her sister over her, and she knew from the beginning that she has to work hard to be loved. On the other hand, the same guy is being all Joe Goldberg and reading all about Filia. Filia narrates later on about her mentor, who gave her a real hard time training her, calling her useless and unworthy of love. She became a saint at 16 and recognized by the king at 19, and engaged to the second prince of Gertonia, Prince Julius. Suddenly, she passes by a father loving his child, and feels stranger. Later, when she gets home, she meets her sister, who is the only one Filia looks up to whenever she gets home. She got Mia a rose hairpin, and Mia can barely contain her happiness, and decides to pick an outfit for her whenever she meets the prince. On the other hand, Julius wants to get rid of Filia and decides to put the plan in action. The next day, Mia is out walking on the streets of Gyrotonia. As she is loved by all for her charm, people approach and surround her. One of them asks if she did something new to her hair, and she explains happily that she was gifted this clip by the one she admires the most, her older sister Filia. Meanwhile, Filia is off to see Julius, her fiancé, but she is wondering why he asked to see her in such a hurry. She looked outside the window, and it was her family carriage outside the palace, knowing her parents are here too. Filia steps inside the room where Julius is and wonders why he called for her. With an arrogant and dismissive smile, he tells her that he is breaking his engagement with her. She gives a little reaction but asks for an elaboration, and he explains that it is because he wants to marry her sister Mia instead. The reason behind choosing Mia over Filia is the absence of charm in Filia, which Mia has. He explains that Mia has that feminine energy in her which makes him want to give her everything he has, and anyone would choose Mia over her. She asks if Mia knows about his plot, and he denies with a frown, but he's sure that she wants him too. After all, men are delusional species. Suddenly, Filia's parents step inside the room, declaring that it was official. Her father tells her that Julius gave them that idea, and her mother urges her to withdraw for Mia's happiness, because she would make a better queen than Filia ever will. Filia thinks if it would make Mia happy, then she wouldn't have a problem with it. Julius interrupts her thoughts, saying the only problem is that Mia would refuse out of consideration for her sister. So, for that reason they have decided to sell Filia to their neighbors in Paracorda. That actually gets a reaction out of her, and she asks for elaboration. Julius explains that their only saint passed away suddenly, so he offered them Filia as their new saint. Not just that, they begged for and paid a heavy amount for her. He decided to give off 30% of it to her parents, and he's sure that Mia would be really happy to hear that he's marrying her. Delusional at its finest, Filia wonders if everyone is finally going to be happy by her being gone. Her chain of thoughts is interrupted by her parents' laughter as they question who would pay so much for a useless thing like Filia. He taunts that he finds it strange that even her own parent treat her as a pet. Her mother takes part in it and she's happy that their family will gain so much out of it. As they have done a good job raising her by treating her worse than people would treat their farm animals. All Filia can think about right now is how to make her parents happy and gain their approval, barely leaving any joy in her life. Her mother goes as far as to say she hopes to never meet Filia again, which just makes her wonder what even is happiness and where will she ever find it. On the other hand, Mia gets home and opens the door to her room. Meanwhile, Filia opens the gates of her home with her luggage, as she has been thrown out. She wonders what could she have done differently to make her parents love her, but she can't ever find that out. As she leaves, there's someone staring at her in a cloak. Julius, the greedy prince, wonders where to spend the money he got from Paracorda. The ones working for him suggest that he get a gold statue of himself made as Gertonia's king. But he plans not to get too ahead of himself, as he's still a prince since his father, even in rotting health, is still alive. The first prince, Ferdinand, withdrew from the public eye out of fear of Julius's power. So, the coronation might be around the corner and he lets his greed for power and Mia get to his head. Meanwhile, Filia travels for days and nights. She wonders to herself that it has been pretty long since she has had any duty to perform, and she doesn't know what to do with herself now. She can't help but think how it's going to be like when she reaches Paracorda. All she can hope for is she is of some worth there and has to keep in mind to work like a slave. She knows there's nothing that can be gained by crying over spilled milk, as her duty remains the same. Only her place is getting changed. Filia vows to work hard as a saint, but she also thinks why should she even do that? Suddenly, the carriage stops and the carrier informs her that this is how far he could take her. Now she has to find her destination by herself and point out at some entrance of the border where she could find where to go next. She carries her luggage and makes her way inside the border, and as she goes closer, she spots some crowd which she finds a little strange. What she didn't expect was a grand entry for her, as she gets welcomed by the same guy, who has been going Joe Goldberg for her along with his army. He gives out his hand to her, welcoming her to his state, and she can't help but be confused. Filia gets carried away in a carriage with safety, making her realize that they paid a heavy amount for her to be sold as a saint. She guesses that she probably won't get to rest for a while now and her duties might begin soon. As they reach their destination, there was a whole welcome party for Filia, who were very happy to have Filia as their saint. She gets welcomed by Bjorn, the head of the church, who shows his gratitude for her. Being naive, Filia asks about her duties today and Bjorn tells her that the only thing she has to do today is enjoy the party. With that said, everyone begins serving her all the delicious food. But she feels secluded as she has always been cornered in such events all her life. She takes a bite out of the salad and she likes it. As she is about to enjoy the meal, the same guy shows up and begins talking to her. She has no idea who he is. Suddenly, Bjorn calls him Prince Oswald and she is shaken. Bjorn tells him that Prince Reincarnated is looking for him, but they sense the confusion on Filia's face. So, Bjorn introduces the second prince of their kingdom, Prince Oswald. That info leaves Filia shaken, as she didn't expect him to be the second prince. Then, Bjorn takes his leave and lets him know that he will send Prince Reincarnated to him. As he leaves, Oswald says he wants to talk about something to Filia and bows down to apologize, as he didn't want to purchase her because it sounds like an insult to her dignity. He explains that they lost their saint and Gertonia reached out to them, which sounded like a blessing. He's sorry that she had to leave behind her family and loved ones, but he swears that he will provide her with every need. My situationship a day before ghosting me. Then, Oswald says that he will work very hard to make her love their country. That makes her teary because she doesn't know what love is. Oswald notices that he has spoken too much, but she assures that it's not that big of a deal. Then he wonders what she was about to say about the veggies. She says that she can increase the rainfall if they give her a few days, but she realizes that she is overstepping again as she remembers what her mother did to her. Oswald is surprised to hear that. As they were talking, the Crown Prince Reincarnated walks in, and Oswald introduces him to Filia as his big brother. Prince Reincarnated is happy to meet Saint Filia and he trusts her with her capabilities. Filia is surprised that two princes came to meet her personally, which means that they must be expecting a lot from her, which puts a lot of pressure on her. On the other hand, monsters have started showing up on the roads again and hence the prices have been up and the shopkeepers are having a hard time getting in stock. This rarely happens when the Saint of Paracorda was alive, and Filia hears about the chatter while being carried in a carriage. There's gossip around that Filia looks unapproachable, mainly because she is unable to smile. The next day, Filia opens her eyes in her new home, which is twice as big as her previous house, and she's a little baffled at this royal treatment since she never got it from her family. She gets up and wears a cloak and gets out of her room. As she is walking down the hallway, she gets by her personal assistants, Lena and Leonardo. They wonder what she is doing up so early, to which she responds that she has some saintly duties to look after and asks to prepare something for her. Later, she is in a carriage with a map in her hands. The city of Paracorda is surrounded by 5 other countries, and the city of Omberg is in the center, making it the heart of it. There are deep forests, which makes Paracorda the easiest target by the monsters to be attacked. Filia wonders that since there are mountains and forests around, she should plan over her first destination. Her assistants, Lena and Leonardo, ask what she is looking at, and she wonders what are they doing along with her here. They inform her that they have been assigned to take care of her all the time, which means they have to support her in her duties too. They think that she was maybe excited to perform her new duties, but when she tells them that it was her routine since the beginning, they both have their jaws on the floor. She says further that if she starts early, then she can finish on time too. Then, Lena asks what she has been looking at in that map, to which she informs that she is looking at the nesting grounds for the monsters, which she can guess by a degree to the terrain. That makes Leonardo take the guess correctly. They are headed to the Betrayal Mountains to the north. They reach there in a while, with the sky filled with black clouds and an atmosphere so tough that it gets hard for them to breathe, which indicates the presence of many monsters. She leads the way while she passes a remark that any longer would have given lethal consequences. Filia realizes that the monster nest is larger than she expected it to be. She tells both of them to stand back so they don't get hurt. But Lena and Leonardo buckle themselves up to protect Filia. Well, she can't quite believe that they have been assigned to protect her, as she has never seen such a good treatment before in her life. But it's rather distracting for her. As Lena and Leonardo walk away, Lena asks him if he was also appointed as Saint Elizabeth's security detail too, and he admits that not only he was on that, but he also protected her predecessor as well. Lena has never seen a saint in action and wonders how they erect the barriers. Meanwhile, Filia walks in a good open spot to erect a barrier. Leonardo tells Lena that a saint pillars. The barrier forms over the land enclosed by the pillars. That area with the barrier makes all the monsters weak, and the more pillars she erects, the more monsters get weak. It takes a lot of time to erect those pillars, yet my pillar takes just a sight of Sydney Sweeney to get erect. Not just time, it takes a lot of mental energy, physical energy, and magic energy. Suddenly, Filia turns to Leonardo and Lena and says that she is done making the first pillar, which leaves Leonardo pretty shocked that she got done as fast as a married man gets done with his mistress. She says that she has to make 7 more pillars, and it will take some more time to make those. But Lena is impressed since she thought it takes a whole day making 1 pillar. Leonardo is deeply shaken, as he knows it's nearly impossible to make a pillar within 30 minutes, and Filia did it as if it's no big deal. He knows Oswald has brought someone extraordinary in their region. After Filia is done with her job, the atmosphere changes and it's shiny and bright. Leonardo offers that they return to the mansion, but she says that they're going to check the local ecosystem and vegetation. Then, she moves, saying that they're going to form a barrier in the West Mountains as well. Later, as they get back to the mansion, Filia apologizes for keeping them out so late, but they don't mind that, yet they find it very impressive. Though, she wanted to start the raining ritual and form some more barriers. Leonardo and Lena just wonder how she wants to do more than she is doing right now, because if she collapses of exhaustion, they'll be the ones responsible. Filia also did the side quests like a NPC for locals. So, Lena informs her that those are the jobs for a saint, and Filia is surprised to know those aren't a saint's job. All she can think of is how she was always ridiculed for doing her job and always called charmless. Then, Leonardo and Lena take their leave and asks Filia to rest up, but she is confused at the thought of it, as she used to think that taking time off would harm national interests. Anyhow, Filia says that she will work tomorrow again, and Lena and Leonardo take their leave. As they go back, they think of how she's so determined, but also notice how she always wants to be left alone. They wonder how badly Gertonia must have treated her and want to give her the best treatment. On the other hand, Mia is having difficulties managing all the duties by herself, as the monsters have started emerging. She frowned over the fact that her sister left without saying a single word to her. But she knows that there's something wrong, and she will find it out soon. After slaying many monsters, Lena and Leonardo informed Saint Filia that the cleansing work had been completed. Saint Filia praised them, saying they did a great job and were amazing. Leonardo replied that the monsters had been weakened thanks to her barrier, and added that the potion she had made seemed to restore his youth. Lena, curious, said she had been wondering what Filia was writing. Saint Filia then revealed a map where she had marked every place they had defeated monsters. Upon seeing the map, Lena commented that the monsters kept multiplying, and even when they wiped them out, they returned quickly. Filia explained that just like humans had their land, there were also realms like heaven and the demon world, the latter being the home of demons. Sometimes, demons escaped from the demon world into theirs. Filia then suggested they return to the mansion. Lena said Filia's work was done for the day and suggested she visit the capital of the Paracorda kingdom, offering to arrange a guide for her. Elsewhere, Oswald walked through the market, greeting people. A vegetable seller asked if he would buy something, and Oswald said he would later. Right now, he had somewhere to be. When asked if it was important, Oswald replied that it was, and he was also going on a date. This surprised everyone in the market. Soon after, Oswald arrived to meet Saint Filia, who looked particularly beautiful. Filia wondered to herself why Oswald was her guide. Oswald started showing her around the city and told her that since her arrival, the country's condition had improved significantly. He thanked her. Filia wondered why he was thanking her, thinking she was only doing her job. But she noticed her heart was beating rapidly. Lena, watching from afar, was happy, convinced that Prince Oswald and Saint Filia were on a date. A man then approached Filia, thanking her for her help in Gertonia, saying his work had improved, and introduced his son. The child greeted Filia, and although she feared he might be scared of her, he thanked her warmly, saying his father had been sad and struggling until Filia helped. This praise surprised Filia. As more people in the market rushed toward her with excitement, Oswald quickly took her hand and led her away. He brought her to a restaurant, apologized for the abruptness, and invited her to order anything she liked. He asked what her favorite food was. The word favorite confused Filia, and Oswald offered to recommend something. He ordered them tea. Filia felt strange, unsure how to act. Oswald said he appreciated her hard work, but reminded her that resting was also part of the job. This shocked Filia. She had never heard that before. He asked her what she liked and disliked. Filia was lost in thought, realizing she had never been allowed to think about herself. As she sipped the tea, she liked the aroma and admitted she liked tea. Oswald offered to take her anywhere she wanted. Filia requested to visit the castle library, which wasn't open to everyone. Once there, Filia seemed uneasy, feeling this didn't seem like a date. While reading, Oswald asked what she was looking for. She explained she was researching the recent surge in monsters. She had seen something similar in Geronia before coming to Paracorda. Filia told Oswald that in Geronia's historical books, she read about a time 400 years ago when the demon world drew close to the human world. Many monsters emerged, including the archdemon Asmodeus. The war nearly destroyed kingdoms, animals, and people. But one saint, Fiona Issel, faced Asmodeus and became known as Archsaint Fiona. She created powerful barriers, separated Asmodeus' soul from his body, and sealed it. After that, peace returned. Now, Filia believed that the demon world might be getting closer again. Following this revelation, Prince Oswald called an urgent meeting. However, the top officials didn't take Filia's theory seriously and refused to support it. Oswald stood by Filia, saying they would increase the military budget to face the threat. The officials complained that the Paracorda budget was already stretched. Oswald insisted they should trust Filia and promised to speak with his father and brother. Later, the military showed Filia their short-term strategy and asked if it would work. Filia disagreed, warning that too many lives would be lost. Instead, she suggested a great purification circle be cast around the kingdom. The room fell silent. Byron pointed out that it was an ancient ritual requiring knowledge of lost languages. Filia said she could perform it, but the problem was that she would have to remain in the center of the circle, meaning she couldn't leave the capital or perform her other duties as a saint. Oswald assured her not to worry about her other tasks, saying it was the right solution. That evening, Oswald met with Filia again and noticed she looked concerned. He asked what was bothering her. Filia said she was thinking about her younger sister, Mia, who was also a saint but didn't know the ancient rituals, making it impossible for her to perform the purification circle. Oswald said he understood. Every elder sister worries about their younger sibling, and told her not to suppress her feelings. He encouraged her to help Mia. Filia then wrote and sent a letter to her sister. Meanwhile, in Gertonia, Mia was still troubled by Filia's departure. One day, Prince Julius suddenly proposed marriage. Mia found it disgusting. He had just lost his fiancé and was already proposing to another woman. She was confused about why her sister had left and felt forced to deal with it. Mia asked Julius for time to think, and he agreed. Mia then began her investigation and discovered her parents had a lot of money. Later, the letter from Filia arrived at her parents' house, but they burned it. One day, on her way to meet Julius, Mia overheard his advisors discussing how they had driven Filia out with help from Mia's parents. Shocked, Mia realized the betrayal. When she met Julius, she asked if her sister had really left the Geronia kingdom on her own. Julius replied that Filia had called off their engagement and moved to Paracorda, adding that she loved to show off. Mia smiled and said he was right, and she agreed to marry him. Julius was thrilled, but Mia thought to herself that she would lead him into happiness and then betray him. For what he had done to her sister, she believed he deserved to be punished. Mia writes a letter to her sister, Filia, informing her about the monsters hurting people of Gertonia. She expresses her mistrust in Prince Julius, saying if he had cared for the kingdom, he would not have sold off Filia. While she is penning down this sentence, she stops midway, crumbles the paper into a ball, and throws it away. Mia starts writing another letter in which she wonders if Filia has noticed the current irregularities by chance. She states her reason for writing is not hearing from her sister's side. By the last sentence, Mia stops again and wonders if this is even meaningful to write, since her sister would surely have sent guidance by now if she had known about the current situation, and this makes her worry about her sister's well-being. A large crowd is gathered in the palace, and Filia and Oswald are also present. Oswald apologizes to Filia for gathering so many people, since it was his father's idea to introduce their new saint to everyone and gain popularity. However, Oswald feels skeptical about it himself. Reincarnated arrives just on time and mentions to Filia how her presence actually seems so meaningful that it was worth the fight he had with his brother, Oswald. Oswald, however, gets uncomfortable at this, but before he could explain it to her, she is called as the arrangements are all done. Before she walks off, Oswald entrusts their kingdom in her hands, as she is the saint now. As Filia climbs up the stairs to the raised platform, she thinks about the generous and patriotic people in that place. She feels a sense of protectiveness for them despite not actually belonging to that place, and realizes that she wants to stay the saint of Paracorda. Filia begins the prayer, and everyone gets enchanted by her beauty and the way she prays. With her promise to protect them, she makes the Great Purification Circle activate, which acts as a shield for their kingdom. However, as soon as she turns around to announce that the prayer has ended, she hears a strange voice in her head, claiming to have found her. This startles Filia, and she gets anxious about what it was. Nevertheless, everyone at the church starts complimenting her while clapping and cheering her up. Lena walks through the streets, content with the weather, and calls Paracorda a picture of peace and tranquility. People stop her on her way to St. Filia and hand her a lot of things, from food to clothes, to give it all to Filia. Lena is quite disappointed by the weight she has to carry to the saint until a little girl hands her flowers, which cheers Lena up. When Lena arrives at Filia's place, she is worried to see her working already while she should be on a break before leaving for the capital. Filia answers that she does not have anything else to do, so Lena asks about her hobbies, which turn out to be none. Lena suggests many things to do, but she does not feel interested in any of them until asked about reading. When Filia says that she deciphers texts and studies scientific textbooks, Lena tells her about her interest in romance novels, but Filia is oblivious about what it is. Lena asks her if she doesn't have any interest in it despite being so beautiful. Filia answers that she never got the chance, but suddenly Oswald's face appears before his eyes. Lena decides to lend her romance novels to Filia when Oswald enters the room. He shyly asks to discuss something with Filia, and over tea and snacks, he clarifies the fight between him and his brother over bringing her here. He says that he wasn't opposed to her coming but to the idea of buying a saint-like object and still stands by his beliefs. However, he's glad to have met her. Leonardo then asks Oswald about what he wanted to discuss with Filia, but Lena tells him not to bring it up right now since she can sense the air between the two. Getting reminded of it, Oswald asks Filia if she is interested in tutoring. At dinner, Lena is intrigued by the idea, but Filia has her doubts about being an effective mentor. Lena assures her of being a good one and says that a saint in training, Oswald, will be good company for her. Suddenly, Filia zones out, worrying about her sister not replying to her letter. Leonardo assures her that he will visit the messenger, and Lena tries to cheer her up so she finally eats. When she likes the food, Leonardo and Lena get happy at her finally expressing it, and tell her that Leonardo has been cooking her food, using the things the people send for her out of gratitude. Filia realizes how good it is to share books and meals with others since she'd been deprived of it due to her loneliness. Grateful about it, she thanks both of them. On the other hand, Mia and Julius are having dinner together, where he brags about getting the best ingredients for her. He also mentions her enjoying such a feast every day once they are married. Filia is about to call it a day when Lena enters her room excitedly and gives her the letter sent from the Kingdom of Gertonia by Mia. Filia quickly reads it but realizes that Mia never received the letter Filia sent to her. When she discusses it with Leonardo and Lena, Leonardo tells her that the royal messenger assured him about the delivery. Filia thinks that her parents might have destroyed it to cut off contact between her and Mia. Leonardo then asks if she wants a way to ensure her letters reach Mia, and when she affirms, they promise to get it done with the help of Himari, another personal female guard assigned to Filia. They tell Filia how Himari has been alongside her secretly due to being a ninja, and Filia states her knowledge about ninjas. Leonardo then asks Himari if she can take the letters of Filia to Mia herself, so she agrees to do it in the name of the Fiuma clan. Filia informs her about the danger of traversing monster-filled forests to enter Gertonia, along with dealing with the people becoming a hindrance between Filia and Mia. However, Himari asks her to give the order without hesitation since she is ready to risk her life for Filia out of gratitude. Filia finally gives her the order, telling her to flee from there and bring Mia as well if she seems to be in danger. Mia raises the final pillar, and the people with her compliment her for being a faster saint than Saint Filia. She walks away sadly, thinking how her rituals are faster than her sister's but the barriers are weaker than hers, so she needs to forge additional layers. Suddenly, a large group of monsters appears from behind the bushes. The guards run off out of fear, and Mia deals with them alone using her magic. She notices them gone and gets disappointed. Due to using so much energy, she is about to fall when Himari catches her. Himari is wearing a cloak to hide her identity and gives Mia a piece of cloth to wipe her face. As Mia takes it, she feels something inside it, so she quickly unfolds it and finds a letter inside. Upon reading, she recognizes her sister's handwriting and asks about her well-being. Himari assures Mia about Filia's well-being and tells her how indebted they are to Filia, but even more due to their affection for her, they wish to help her in every way. That is why Himari tells Mia she's here. Mia feels relieved to know this, but suddenly the guards return while calling her out. Before Himari can leave, Mia asks her to come by in the evening and talk about her sister and this letter, so Himari agrees and leaves. When Himari arrives in the evening, jumping like a ninja from the ceiling, Mia is surprised. Mia expresses her surprise over Himari actually being a girl, to which she replies that it's a crucial skill for going undetected. Mia then thanks Himari for bringing the letter and about the monsters. Himari tells her that Filia calls it a race against time. Mia asks if she'll have to kill all the kingdom's forces as told by her sister and worries about Julius being in charge, which makes it a difficult job. Himari looks at Mia worried and gets reminded of Filia's words to take Mia to her if she seems in danger. She asks Mia if she wants to leave for Paracorda with her since she can easily take one person along with her. Mia considers the offer, considering the chance to meet her sister and the chance to escape this sick place, which sold off her sister to another kingdom with no shame. Grace Matillas, the Saint of Balmern, arrives at Paracorda in her carriage, and Filia and her guards receive her. While Filia is quite formal with her, Grace starts screaming out of enthusiasm since she wanted to meet Filia for so long and calls it a dream to get tutored by her. Several days earlier, when Oswald came to ask Filia about her views on being a tutor, she got confused. He explains to her that the Matillas family has produced saints for Balmern for generations and has deep ties with the royal family. The Elkrantz family, which has produced Paracorda's saints, originated as a branch of the Matillas line as well. Since the two countries are too close, they've had a lot of interaction, and recently they sent the kingdom of Paracorda a request to learn purification magic from her, Saint Filia. For that, they want to send their fourth daughter, Grace, to study here. Thus, after knowing this, Filia agrees. While Grace is fangirling over Filia, her butler, Arnold, apologizes to Filia for her behavior with an explanation about her being Filia's great fan. Filia notices Grace's energetic attitude and realizes how lively the mansion is going to be. Later, while serving tea, Leonard asks Filia if she's sure about teaching the Great Purification Circle to someone from another kingdom. She answers that there's no issue except for it not being everyone's cup of tea to handle. The Great Purification Circle doesn't need any talent, but knowledge and perception, and for it, one must study ancient language. Filia is reminded about how Mia couldn't use it since she didn't know the ancient language and regrets not teaching it to her. Filia says to Leonard that since Grace might already know the ancient language, she would be quick to learn it. Filia starts the ancient ritual class, and Grace is quite excited. She explains the basic rules and tells her to learn perception by practicing perceiving the natural magic power necessary to use ancient rituals, mana. Upon being questioned about mana, Filia says that when one casts spells, he uses the magic power within oneself, known as odd, while the magic power that comes from the natural world is called mana. Therefore, since the Great Purification Circle is massive in scale, it's difficult to perform using odd alone, so mana is used to fill in the gaps. To learn perception, Filia tells Grace to stand alone in the sunlight and feel nature with all her senses. After trying so hard, Grace finally speaks up about not feeling the mana at all, but just a slight power in nature. Filia assures her that this is enough for now to indicate that she can perceive mana. In order to push her further, Filia casts the light spell, which makes the mana shine, and she tells Grace that it would be easier for her if she could sense it visually. Grace can't help but admire Filia to no extent, which makes Filia feel flattered. When Grace calls Filia's book treatises on sainthood her personal Bible, Filia realizes how people must have misperceived it as she had expected. She tells Grace that it was just a collection of her experiences and research, not anything praiseworthy. However, Grace denies her claim and tells Filia how her book has been a light to her since she had no exceptional talent as the fourth daughter in a family of saints. Thus the book inspired her to endure the fierce training and made her want to thank Filia someday for becoming a saint and for writing those books. Grace's words remind Filia of her mother, who tore her book apart and scolded her for writing it by calling her shameless, and Julius, who called it a boast about her accomplishments. The publication of those books ceased, and they stopped circulating in Gertonia. When her own people rejected her, she started regretting it and accepted their words as the truth, until now she's realized their true value. In the break, Grace asks Filia about ever having any students before her, but Filia denies, and it makes Grace proud. Grace then praised Filia's method of teaching, so Filia answered that she's only following her teacher. Grace asks if that teacher was the previous saint of Gertonia, and Filia confirms and tells her the name Hildegard Adenauer, who is also her paternal aunt. When getting asked about what kind of teacher she was, Filia calls her unsparing and tells all kinds of things she put Filia through. Grace asks if there was any reason for her to be that strict. The question reminds Filia of when Hildegard told her that she only wants to make Filia strong because she resembles Hildegard, who was bullied by Filia's parents. The realization makes Filia feel bad, and she apologizes to her mentor in her head. While reading the romance books brought by Lena, Filia asks her about the weird plot, which she continues to explain. Just then, Leonardo enters the room and gives Filia a letter from Himari, informing her the delivery of the letter has been completed. Leonardo further informs her about her carriage being ready for tomorrow. Upon being asked by Lena, Filia says that she will go with Grace to visit Grace's cousin, Elizabeth's grave, who passed away 3 months ago. The next morning, Filia and Grace are at the graveyard, talking about Elizabeth, when Reincarnated also arrives. At first, he mistakes Grace for Elizabeth since the two of them resemble each other due to being cousins. However, he soon realizes that it is Grace and later tells Filia that he was formerly engaged to Elizabeth. Just like Grace, he's also brought golden freesia flowers, which Elizabeth claimed to like more than any gift since it would remind her of Reincarnated. After he leaves, they notice how much Reincarnated still loves Elizabeth Andes to find time to visit Elizabeth's grave despite his busy schedule. Filia thinks about how she has never been loved this way, but then she realizes if, instead of wanting others to love her, she has ever tried loving someone herself. At the mansion, Lena notices Filia being sad, so she sends her off to Oswald's place for some delivery. She tries running away, but he stops her and asks to have lunch with her, which she just delivered. While eating, she looks looks at the garden and wonders why and how he manages it all, and Oswald senses her curiosity. He answers that he isn't interested in the throne, so he acts like a layabout son not worth playing politics over. After realizing his love for his family, she tells him about Reichert's visit at Elizabeth's grave. Oswald tells Filia about Reichert's love story and how he started blaming himself for failing to protect Elizabeth, and threw himself into endless duties as a punishment. He wonders if Reichert could use a hobby like him, who used to try joy to others while enjoying gardening. He then asks her if she has felt the joy of making others happy. At first, she's reminded of her parents' mean words, but then she remembers how her sister and the people of Paracorda are always thanking her. She answers that she thought she should abstain from personal desires as a saint, but instead it was her trying to please her parents, which, in the end, crushed her self-esteem. However, it's now that she's seen how people like her. Oswald scoots closer to her and appreciates her, saying he will acknowledge her in her parents' stead. She realizes how she always wanted to hear these words and thanks him. While Grace is learning perception, Filia emphasizes its importance to Arnold. He acknowledges it and asks if the thing Grace is trying to perceive is called mana. Out of excitement, Grace opens her eyes and confirms to Arnold that it is called mana and asks him if he is interested in ancient rituals. Arnold denies it and says that he's asking about it because her father has asked him to report on his darling daughter's progress. She gets grumpy at the mention of her father and tells Arnold to tell her father that she's working hard to help Balmern. She whines about her father still treating her like a child when she's already 15 years old. Looking at her, Filia feels like she wants to help the people of Paracorda, who are so nice to her, and this thought suddenly reminds her of something. She tells Grace that today's lesson is over and excuses herself out of there. Oswald enters Reichert's room and asks him the reason for summoning him. Reichert shows Oswald the letter that they just received from the Kingdom of Gretonia, and when Oswald reads it, he surprisingly asks if this is some joke. Reichert tells him that it is not a joke, and due to some unknown reason, the Kingdom of Gretonia has requested them to send Saint Filia back. Julius mocks Mia, repeating that she has estimated the potential damage of the future and rudely asks if she knows her limits. Mia, still smiling, remembers Himri's offer of escaping the kingdom. The idea had lingered at the back of her mind like a shadow stretching across the afternoon sun, but she never truly entertained it. Not when there was so much left to be done. Not when her sister's name still echoed in these palace halls. Mia looks at Julius and thinks how she wants to stay, not out of loyalty to the throne but for revenge on the man who sold her sister. Her fingers twitch slightly, hidden within the folds of her sleeves. He mocks her again, saying that Mia is taking over her sister's bad habits, and with a smirk tells her to stay still and look pretty because politics is a man's domain. His words bounce off the chamber walls with a stinging arrogance. He says that her suggestions of protecting the country require money that they don't have. She mocks a smile back, her expression sweet and unbothered, and asks him about the money he was given by Paracorda in exchange for her sister. Her voice is calm, but there is steel underneath. He proudly assures her that the money contributed to the giant gold statues of the Gretonian royal family. Red flashes through her after hearing this. It was pride, misplaced and cruel, wearing royal robes and hiding behind the mask of honor. Her fists curl for a second before relaxing again. Just then, they hear some commotion behind the doors as the king enters, barely standing on his own. His steps are unsteady, and his breathing is labored, but his voice still carries the weight of authority as he asks if the news of the demon realm approaching is real. Mia nods, answering truthfully. She watches the frail figure of the king and thinks how anyone has rarely seen him after his illness. He was once known for his commanding presence, but now he looked like a crumbling statue, hollowed out by time and sickness. Julius interrupts, scoffing that Mia is just a woman, unfit to deliver such warnings. The king frowns, starting to scold him, saying that only saints know all about monsters. He asks Julius if he's not satisfied by sending Filia. His voice trembles, not from weakness, but from anger. Julius replies that it was her choice to go, brushing off any responsibility. Mia's eyes widened. In that moment, she realizes with a sinking heart that it was Julius's decision to sell Filia. Suddenly, the king breaks into a violent coughing fit. His guards rush forward to hold him upright as he nearly falls to the floor. Mia steps forward, concerned, and asks if there is any medicine left that her sister made for the king. One of the guards looks at her nervously and replies that they misplaced the recipe. She notices Julius smiling faintly in the background. That smug look is all she needs to see. She understands now, Julius wants the king to die to have free reign over the kingdom. Julius casually tells her to have faith in their kingdom's guards. That leaves her no choice, and she sweetly pleads with him to accompany her on her duties tomorrow. Her tone is gentle, almost playful, but beneath it lies something sharp. The next day during the raid, Julius screams, flailing as he fights for his life in front of the demons. His voice is shrill, breaking apart under fear. She thinks how her plan could finally show him the real danger their kingdom is in. Mia kills the demons alongside the soldiers, swift and precise. The fight is brutal, but she never falters. After the fight, Julius tries to excuse himself, saying his stomach is having trouble, so he should go back. He clutches his midsection dramatically, sweat glistening on his forehead. She asks again, maintaining her composed smile, if he is sure of the danger now, but Julius remains unyielding. He straightens up, wiping his hands, and pretends to be unaffected. The goblins begin to surround him again, and he screams, scrambling behind Mia for protection. She turns to him calmly and tells him again of the kingdom where not even the capital is safe. Still, he says that he doesn't take orders from a woman and that Filia did the same. She thinks how Julius might have an inferiority complex towards her sister. Her heart aches for a brief moment, but she keeps her resolve. With a heavy heart, she still fights the demons, shielding the very man who sold her sister. Julius says that it's all because of Filia, who went away to save another kingdom, leaving theirs alone.
What?
His voice carries a bitterness too deep for reason. Mia thinks how it's impossible for Julius to know the truth and acknowledge his mistakes. He hides behind pride and delusions. Mammon tries to flirt with the lady trying to water the crops. His grin is wide and lazy. She turns around to see him, only to watch in horror as his head rolls down with a clean slash. She drops the watering pot and runs away screaming. Mammon casually picks up his head, dusts it off, and places it back on. He turns toward his sister with a dramatic sigh, saying that she is mean. His sister, far less amused, threatens him and expresses her worries about the revival of Archdemon Asmodeus. Her eyes glint with genuine concern. He replies that they are kind of family, that's why he's not worried. She tells him how Asmodeus' soul was sealed by Saint Fianna hundreds of years ago, but the seal is weakening because of the approaching demon realm. He assures her again, saying that this is all because the church sent them and that everything is happening as expected. Julius throws things on the floor in rage, his chamber echoing with crashing sounds. He mutters how his life has been in misery ever since he sold Filia. He grabs a vase and smashes it against the wall, breathing heavily. He asks himself how far Mia is trying to go to humiliate him. He thinks of how hard he has tried to gain his crown prince position when everyone was against him. When he finally got it, he thought life would be perfect, until the day Filia arrived. He says that a woman only needs outer beauty, but she dared to tell him what to do. Just then, Marquis Piers arrives, nodding in agreement. He tells Julius about the treasure left by Saint Fianna that it's stored beneath the church in the capital, and that whoever breaks the seal can obtain tremendous power. Julius's eyes light up with hunger. He fantasizes about the treasure, imagining the power flowing through his veins, saying that after that, no one will tell him what to do. Marquis Piers goes away, and Julius comes out of the illusion with a shiver. Reality presses back in. Prince Oswald tells Filia that they are demanding her back as things in Gritonia are getting worse. He says they can refuse the request, but he just wanted to inform her. Filia thinks about how she has to stay in the capital to maintain the Great Purification Circle. But even then, it must be hard for Mia to handle Julius alone. Oswald assures her not to take the burden by herself and says that everyone here is to help her. He promises to send Paracorda knights to aid them. He tells her that he will do as much as he can and not to worry. Filia sincerely thanks him. She goes away with Lena to help her make the tea. Oswald turns to Leonardo and says that it's good how Filia is accepting their gratitude. Filia tells them to gather as she reads Mia's letter. Grace informs her about the king's poor health and how Julius destroyed her recipe. She decides to send the recipe with Himari next time. She thinks how Mia is going to such lengths to fight Julius. Himari asks if she can kill Julius. Mia tries to settle her down, saying that it could lead to a war between the two kingdoms. Himari asks how Mia is going to handle him then. Mia expresses how she wants him to repay for what he did to her sister and how she wants him to repent and regret everything. Himari tells her that in her position as the saint, she can actually make this happen. Mia thinks how she is the protector of the kingdom from all the ill, even if the evil lies within their own monarch. She begins to realize that she is forgetting the reason she became a saint in the first place. She remembers how Filia went away to practice as the saintess, and how her mother refrained her from meeting her sister, asking her to study hard. But she disguised herself and went to the kingdom to see her sister. She remembers how it was the first time she came face to face with a demon and how she felt so useless. Coming from a saint's lineage, she still couldn't protect herself. She asked God to save her. Filia came flying out of nowhere to save her life. At that moment, she saw how her sister was like a hero, adored by the people of their kingdom. She thinks how her sister is the reason she wanted to become a saint to protect their people together and how she is like a role model to her. She exclaims to Himari that she can't forget her duties as the saint and not take revenge for her sister. Himari tells her to remain herself and fight for herself and Filia. She tells her to work for the kingdom through her own lens. Mia stands up, her voice steady, stating that she is going to keep hating Julius as part of her saintly obligations and expose him to the world and to break him completely. That she is going to be selfish because she demands both salvation for her kingdom and revenge for her sister. She says how she needs someone else to entrust to expose the prince fully and to help the king recover. She plans to take out Prince Ferdinand, who's confined upon Julius's orders, and only he could help her to have success in her plans. Pierre gets appointed as Mia's bodyguard, and he wants to proceed with her duties. But before that, Mia wants to go see the Crown Prince Ferdinand. Pierre never expected Mia to be on their side, and she thinks the same. To which, Pierre admits that it's very common in soldiers to be loyal to their crown prince. But he also says that they keep their loyalty among themselves so Prince Julius doesn't get a glimpse of it. That makes her wonder that it's exactly what Himari told her, that Fernand has been sickly since birth, and the noble who wanted Prince Julius to go further took advantage of that, and robbed Fernand of what should have been his. As they are walking, Pierre says that Julius treats his bodyguards like a disposable. Once he's done with them, he will throw them away when they're no longer of any use. This way, at the end, there will be no one defending the kingdom at the end. Mia wonders if Pierre used to be Fernand's personal bodyguard, so how is he holding up now? Pierre says that he's waning right now, which is understandable after the betrayal of Julius, into keeping Fernand under House R's. T and Fernand had no other option. When the king found out what Julius did, he got Fernand's house arrest lifted and was angry at Julius. But since then, Fernand has refused to be free and has hidden in his estate for almost 12 years now, which surprises Mia, but she knows it'll take more effort, because Gertonia has no time to lose and she has to put in more effort than ever. She enters Fernand's room, greets him, and introduces herself as Julius's fiancé. He was uninformed that it's not Filia anymore, and it's Mia who is Julius's fiancé. She says that Filia is her older sister who had to go and serve for Paracorda. He's surprised that the king made such a decision, but Mia informs him that the king has fallen ill and Julius is handling state affairs. He gets straight to the point as to what Mia wanted to talk about, and she says that she wants him to take the throne instead of Julius to save the kingdom. But he passes the offer and catches a hint that Mia absolutely hates Julius, even though she assured him that this isn't about her personal feelings. Later on, she angrily forms the pillars and wonders why the two brothers are so stubborn. So, she decides to first cure his illness and build some stamina in Fernand. Pierre tells her that he got better after he took the meds Filia made for him. Meanwhile, Filia is making a present for Oswald and makes one for Lena as well, which makes Lena happy like a little kid. Right at the moment, Leonardo brings a report from Gertonia for Filia to see. Back at Mia, she goes to Fernand and asks why he stopped taking pills that Filia made, to which he said that the pills started making his health better, but if he got better, Julius would have him killed in no time. Mia gives him an offer. If he takes the pills, she will protect him and give him time to think of it. On the other hand, Filia gets summoned by the king and asks Oswald if she did anything wrong, but he assures her that he just wants to meet her. Still, she is a bit scared and he assures her that if someone speaks ill of her, he won't tolerate that, even if it is his own father, because he doesn't like the idea of her being hurt. After a while, they reach the king, and the king apologizes that he took so long to meet Filia. He thanks her for saving their kingdom from a potential threat, and she admits that she just performed her duty as a saint. As he speaks to her, Filia sees the hint of Oswald and the king. The king wants to reward Filia for her work by helping Mia in her saintly duties because she is unable to handle them on her own. This makes Filia very emotional, as she is very scared of losing Mia. She bursts with emotions and instantly apologizes, but the king tells her that there's nothing that she did wrong. Then, he orders Oswald for the orders to be carried to send a horde of knights to Gertonia. But, at this rate of monsters approaching, knights can't help much, so Filia wants to make a magic barrier big enough to save the whole continent, but she needs Grace's help for that. Then, she goes to Grace and asks to borrow her magic power, and says that she will teach her the magic convergence spell and she can teach that to her saint sisters and borrow their magic power for Filia. Grace agrees and Filia starts her training. After a while, Grace is close to learning it. Still, Filia doesn't know how Reincarnated feels about all that, but he hints that he's proud of her as she has owned Paracorda and also takes care of the people around her. Meanwhile, in Gertonia, Mia wakes Fernand up and opens up the window of his room for some sunlight, and brings a basket of lunch for her. He thinks she is pushing herself too hard, to which she says she can't marry a man like Julius, hence she will do anything. Fernand has given up all hope because of his brother, but Mia urges him to stand on his feet and try to put up a fight for all the injustice that has been done to him by Julius. She cries with all the emotions she's feeling and runs away, and that leaves an impact on him, and he decides to take steps to make the situation better. The knight lets out a scream of agony, his body torn apart by the brutality of battle. Before the pain can consume him, Mia appears, and with a single touch of her magic, it disappears. Some time later, Mia sits in solitude, drained from overexerting herself. She hasn't only been healing the wounded, she's also been keeping up the magical barrier that shields them all. Pierre approaches and commends her efforts, recognizing how much she's endured. He apologizes for leaning on her so heavily, but Mia gently reassures him. Compared to the constant pressure of saving her former guard unit, she feels she has more freedom now. She adds that Aunt Hilda returning to her saintly role has eased the burden. Sharing the load has helped keep the kingdom and Mia from collapsing. Still, she confesses it's only been a few days of fighting. The barrier that Saint Filia once formed has shattered, and with it, the last of their divine protection is gone. Through its fractured remains, a demon slithers forth, with a command to capture Saint Filia. Late at night, as Filia sleeps, the shadow silently slips into her room. Just as it's about to reach her, she awakens and reacts instantly. She casts a binding spell, trapping the intruder in place before it can move further. As the captured shadow rides, a calm voice breaks the silence, asking Filia if this is her first time seeing a demon. The one behind it steps into the light. Urza notices, an exorcist. She explains that she's come to deliver a warning, that the demon realm is rising in power again. This cycle happens every few centuries, but this time things are progressing faster than expected. The fact that a demon's shadow made it past the barrier is a dangerous sign. Filia connects the dots and realizes this is related to the archdemon Asmodeus. If the demon realm continues to grow stronger, the sealed Asmodeus will surely awaken. And when he does, his first target will be her. Back in Gertonia, Mia thinks about the upcoming National Defense meeting. More of a formality than anything, she considers checking on Prince Ferdinand. Before that, she's stopped by Marquis, who questions where she's headed, noting that it's not the direction of the conference room. Mia immediately recognizes him as the leading figure in the second Prince faction. Mark brings up rumors of Mia frequently visiting Prince Ferdinand's villa, implying it's improper behavior for someone engaged. Mia explains that she's been checking on Ferdinand due to his poor health and hoping to refine her healing skills, but admits he turns her away each time. Her answer seems to satisfy the Marquis. Still, he advises her to leave Ferdinand alone, claiming it's Ferdinand's choice to remain isolated. Mia hides her frustration, thinking to herself that it's exactly this kind of treatment from the nobility that caused Ferdinand to shut himself off in the first place. Just then, the Marquis's son reminds them it's time to head to the conference room. During the conference, everyone is stunned. Prince Julius too visibly shocked, demanding to know why Ferdinand is there. But Ferdinand asserts himself firmly, reminding Julius to show respect to his elder brother. Mia too is surprised after refusing to leave his room for so long. Why did he suddenly show up? Julius tries to downplay his concern, saying Ferdinand should still be in bed. Mia agrees internally, knowing Ferdinand's condition isn't something that heals overnight. But he insists he's well enough and says that with the king unwell, he must step in as crown prince. Mia is alarmed, fearing that Julius might retaliate. He then questions why Julius rejected Paracorda's offer of aid, pointing out their king is an old ally of their father. Julius fires back, claiming they only want to use the kingdom's crisis to invade. Ferdinand challenges the logic, saying no one would want to take over a kingdom overrun by monsters. Mia notices Ferdinand is trembling. He's clearly forcing himself to act strong. She realizes he's far from recovered, but his resolve is real. She decides to stand by him and support his efforts. Julius suddenly shifts focus to Filia, accusing her of treason for refusing to return and demanding her arrest. Mia's anger erupts as she goes completely numb with rage. Ferdinand tries to bring reason back to the table, but Julius cuts him off and declares the meeting over, ending it by announcing the punishment of Adenauer for raising a traitor. After the conference, Prince Ferdinand admits he's reached his limit. The effects of his medicine have faded, and he can't keep pushing his body any further. But Mia reassures him, telling him that he did a great job and deserves to rest. She's genuinely thankful for his bravery and says he looked impressive while standing up during the event. Ferdinand, moved by her words, smiles and says it was all worth it. But before they part, he gently warns Mia to be cautious. Elsewhere in the palace, Prince Julius meets with Adenauer and his wife. They're stunned when Julius announces that their assets will be seized. The scumbags panic, but Julius tells them to support his secret plan, if they don't want to lose everything. Back with Mia and Ferdinand, the prince explains that everything he did was meant to provoke his brother. He hopes this will force him to make a move and reveal his true nature. She formally asks Ferdinand to join her in this fight. Ferdinand agrees without hesitation, saying that it's her strength and encouragement that gave him the courage to stand up. Meanwhile, in a different area, Hildegard is seen casting a barrier to block the monster. Just then, Pierre comes and bows before her and addresses her as the former saint. He's not here to fight. He has something important he wants to discuss with her. On the other hand, Grace asks her older sister Emily to help expand the Great Purification Circle. But Emily is furious at the idea of working under Filia, whom she sees as a rival. Grace had expected this, knowing Emily has always compared herself to Filia, the most famous saint. Emily also argues that Belle has managed fine without outside help. But before she can continue, another sister, Amanda, steps in. She reminds Emily that the monster threat is getting worse and that everyone needs to work together. Then Jane playfully suggests Emily is just jealous of Filia, which flusters Emily into finally agreeing to help, insisting it's only out of duty, not emotion. Grace is relieved things worked out and silently thanks Jane for her support. Next, Grace explains that expanding the purification circle requires an ancient ritual called the Magic Convergence spell. To prepare, they need to start with a simpler technique called the Robe of Light. She hands Emily a manual prepared by Filia. Surprisingly, Emily manages to cast the spell on her first try. She proudly claims it's due to her natural talent, but deep down she's impressed by the manual's quality. Realizing they owe a lot to Filia, Emily encourages Amanda and Jane to join her in showing what the Saints of Bomber can achieve. Grace feels hopeful, confident that everything is falling into place. Back in Gertonia, Mia was focused on her duties. When Pierre approached with urgent news, he informed her that Prince Julius had begun making his move much faster than expected, likely triggered by Prince Ferdinand's provocation. Mia found it reckless for someone in Julius' position, but admitted it worked in their favor. Pierre explained that Julius had ordered House Adenauer to host the grand party, inviting many noble families to unite under his influence. Mia was puzzled by his approach, finding his logic hard to grasp. Later, as Mia walked down a hallway, a maid rushed up to her. The maid explained that a man had come for confession and insisted that only Mia could hear it. When Mia met him, she recognized him as the son of Marquis, aligned with the second prince's faction. He quietly mentioned that he had something important to share. After returning home, Mia collapsed on her bed, feeling drained by the day's events. But her rest was cut short by her father's angry voice yelling from another room. Mia stepped out to see what was happening and was surprised to find Hildegard. Her aunt had come to visit. Her father was furious and told Hildegard she wasn't welcome, but she calmly replied that she had come only to share important information with Mia as a fellow saint. She offered to speak outside instead, and Mia agreed to join her. As Mia walked outside with Hildegard, she couldn't help but notice how much her aunt resembled her older sister, Filia. The similarity was striking, but she quickly brushed the thought away, trying to stay focused. She thanked her aunt for returning to her duties as a saint, believing it had helped stop the monsters from advancing. Hildegard dismissed the gratitude, saying her return had made little difference. In her eyes, the kingdom was already crumbling under the threat of monsters. She mentioned that Filia, her own pupil, could have handled everything alone if given the chance. Mia silently agreed, knowing all they had done so far was slow the inevitable. Wanting to know the real reason for their conversation, Hildegard replied that she wanted to know the truth to discuss. Without hesitation, Hildegard asked Mia to let her adopt her. Mia was stunned. Her aunt then explained that Mia's parents would eventually fall as a result of the path she was on. Her revenge would not just bring down Prince Julius, but her family as well. Mia was surprised that Hildegard already knew so much. The previous saint revealed that she was part of the Crown Prince's faction. She had never forgiven Prince Julius for selling off her precious student, Filia. After learning from Pierre that Mia had joined their side, she had been waiting for the right moment to talk. Hildegard believes Mia would struggle deeply once her parents were gone. She explained that she too had lost someone, her husband. Despite their distance, she wanted to support Mia through the pain. Mia couldn't understand why someone who barely knew her would want to adopt her. Then came the truth. Hildegard revealed that Mia's parents had already taken her daughter. Hearing this, the resemblance between Filia and Hildegard now made sense. Hildegard began to share her past. As the chosen saint of the family, she had once been cherished by their mother. But her younger brother, Mia's father, grew jealous of all the attention she received. That jealousy turned into hatred. Over time, he spread lies about her, and by the time their mother passed away, everyone believed him. Hildegard lost her place in the family. After taking over the household, her brother and his wife struggled to have a child. In a family of saints, producing a daughter was essential. Around that same time, Hildegard became pregnant. When they learned her child would be a girl, they took the baby, Filia, from her. They spread a false story that Hildegard's child had been stillborn. When she told others the truth, no one believed her. They thought she had gone mad from grief. Soon after, her ailing husband's condition worsened and she lost him, too. With her spirit broken, she gave up. Since then, the only thing she could do for Filia was ensure she became strong enough to stand on her own. For letting go of her daughter, Hildegard believed she had no right to call herself a mother. She had no plans to ever tell Filia the truth. Mia's eyes filled with tears. Her voice trembled as she said she couldn't understand why Hildegard would tell her all of this. She was still their daughter. Why destroy that belief and take away what little she had left? Hildegard looked at her calmly and said the reason was simple. This was her own revenge. Mia froze. The image of her parents already worn thin shattered completely in that moment. Deep inside, she had always believed there was still some goodness in them. That maybe despite their cruelty, they were capable of love. But now, even that faint hope has been stripped away. And what made it worse was the realization that they hadn't always been childless. Eventually, they had a daughter of their own, Mia. That meant Mia herself was the reason Filia had been treated so cruel. The guilt overwhelmed her. She felt unworthy of even calling herself sister. After some time, Mia managed to calm herself and took a deep breath. She said that if everything Hildegard told her was true, then it made even less sense. Why would she adopt the daughter of the very brother she despised? Hildegard said that she had received a letter from Paracorda. In that letter, Filia had written about how deeply she cared for Mia. She said Mia was kind, strong, and always put her heart into everything she did. She mentioned how Mia often pushed herself too hard and how that worried her. She called Mia her younger sister and said that she loved her very much. Filia recalled how when she was called back to the Adenauer family after her engagement to Prince Julius, she felt no attachment to the place that should have been her home. But it was Mia who made her feel welcome. It was because of Mia that the cold house began to feel like home. At the time, Filia didn't realize how much that warmth meant to her. But after spending time in Paracorda and learning to reflect on her life, she understood it clearly. It was Mia's kindness that had saved her. She ended the letter by asking her mentor, Hildegard, to support Mia however she could. She believed the kingdom needed the light that Mia carried. And more than that, Mia needed someone who would truly stand by her side. The next day, Gertonia is under attack by the monsters. No matter how hard Mia tries, Julius won't budge and spend a dime on the aid of Gertonia to actually secure the country. Meanwhile, Aunt Hilda is making light barriers to keep the monsters out of the country, but at this rate, the efforts seem rather useless. But Mia decides to stay motivated because she is the saint of the country. On the other hand, Elsa praises Filia for her plan and wonders if it is a fail-proof method. Elsa's younger brother Mammon tries to assure her, but she shuts him up by quite literally cutting his head off and it falls down. Filia admits that Gertonia is tough to handle and has 4 days left and they have to take measures before that. Prince Riker comes in and Elsa introduces herself as the exorcist and Mammon as her brother. Then, Riker talks about the aid of the soldiers Paracorda sent for Gertonia, but they were refused entry to the country and falsely accused of invading the country, which worries Riker since he overheard the conversation of Gertonia only having 4 days left. Elsa agrees with Riker as the awakening of Asmodeus is about to happen. Paracorda will be risked as well because Asmodeus is after Filia. Later at night, Filia thinks about the conversation she had with Elsa where Elsa inquired about the cycle of rebirth, reincarnation. She wonders where the soul of Fiona ended up, but soon tells Filia that it resides inside of her. Well, Mammon gets reminded of sweet memories of the archdemon being beaten up by Fiona and falling in love with her. Man's having some degrading kinks. Then, Elsa tells her that this is the reason he's after her, to have a chance at the rejected love once again. Later, as Filia ponders upon it, Oswald comes and sits with her. He tells her to take care of herself and assures that he is there with her, along with everyone in Paracorda. Hearing his calm words, Filia feels relaxed. Then, Oswald asks her out on another date, which makes Lena happy for Filia and Filia accepts it, though it is making both of them blush. Back in Gertonia, Julius is hosting a party, neglecting the actual needs of Gertonia. And that infuriates Mia, as the country doesn't need to spend their leftover funds like that. Suddenly, Julius comes and grabs Mia closer to him, and she pretends to be pleased. Right then, Fernan comes in, taunting about the great party he's holding. Strange enough, Julius likes his presence there. Everyone is surprised to see Fernan stand in front of them. Then, Fernan goes on to give a speech, how he will take care of the country being the crown prince and take the best measures. Everyone is assured and a round of applause goes for him, which makes Julius happy, which was weird. As Mia was praising Fernan, Julius steps in and begins to falsely praise him. Fernan excuses himself, but he says he will be back for a toast. As Fernan goes away, Julius wonders if Mia and him could set up a date for their wedding, and that makes her wants to throw up, so she says that they should do it after the situation is calmer. He agrees and Fernan returns. The servant brings glasses of toast for Fernan, Mia and Julius cunningly says that Fernan should take a toast, since it won't affect his health that much. Fernan hesitates but decides to trust his brother and grabs the glass of wine. Mia's father gives out the toast and everyone gulps down the wine. Fernan is a bit hesitant and so is Mia, but still, he drinks it. As soon as he drinks it, he begins to choke on it and faints. Mia rushes to him to check his pulse and he's not breathing. Julius openly admits to it that he did it on purpose, and Mia says to keep this matter in front of the king, but Julius also got his own father murdered the same night. As he admits to all of the heinous acts he committed, he laughs crazy as he felt his father and his brother were standing in his way. According to him, he felt liberated and approached Mia, saying he's gifting her the queenship, and they should get married right away. But before he could touch her, Fernan stands up again and throws him, admitting that he knew about his disgusting plan and one of the servants of Julius already told Mia about the plan. Fernan confronts him with everything, how he staged everything and even their father was alive. Everything was perfect a while ago for Julius, but it all came crumbling down along with a death sentence. Then, it was time for Mia to shine, as she admits that she betrayed him, even though he has crippling love for her. She screams at him and her parents for treating Filia like garbage and tossing her off to another kingdom. Meanwhile, Julius is still trying to gaslight everyone, including himself, that he can still be the king, as he was always the golden child, who naturally just always knew how to do things better since his brother was always ill. Everyone would praise him, except his father, who would tell him to work on his attitude. But after a while, he stopped caring about his father. He felt the real threat when Filia stepped in, who could potentially take away all the power from him because she was better than him. This is why he sold her off. Suddenly, he stands up and screams at Mia and Fernan for being traitors. What he didn't realize was, his father was there under a disguise all along, and finally shows himself, leaving Julius terrified. The king explains that he recovered thanks to Mia's sister's medicine. Julius panics and tries to claim there's a misunderstanding. Just then, a guard steps forward with a report. He announces that poison was found at the Adenauer residence, matching the one used in the recent incident. The poison had been supplied by Mark Purris. The king turns to Purris and asks if he has anything to say in his defense. Purris is speechless, unable to answer. The king then gives the order to arrest Mark Adenauer, his wife, Mark Purris, and all others involved in the plot. The king reveals that he already has all the necessary evidence. Purris is shocked and looks toward his own son. The king explains that it was Purris's own son who begged him to put a stop to this scheme. Then the king turns to Julius. He declares that he's seen all of Julius's actions, even his attempt on his brother's life. The king orders the guards to take Julius away. The guards quickly bind him and escort him to prison. As Mia watches everything unfold, she thinks to herself that Julius's chaos has finally come to an end. With the king now leading the way, the real battle to protect Gertonia can begin. The fight for the kingdom's survival is about to start. The scene returns to Paracorda. Prince Oswald reports that the knights have been allowed to enter Gertonia. He believes they are likely already engaged in battle with the monsters. Still, he admits the delay was costly and hopes they arrived in time. Prince Reinhardt turns to Filia, telling her to be ready. But before Oswald can ask what he means, their conversation is interrupted. Grace returns and announces that the plan was successful. Using Filia's idea, she and her 3 sisters have combined their mana into a single Magistone. This special gem now allows Filia to harness all their magical energy. This process is part of an ancient ritual called the Mana Conversion Spell. It allows the combined magical power of several people to be concentrated into one stone, and whoever wears it can draw out massive power artificially. Filia is moved by Grace's efforts and begins the spell. She starts expanding the Great Purification Circle across the continent. As the ritual begins, light radiates from the Magistone. Prince Oswald is shocked by the brightness, noting that the mana is glowing even more powerfully than the last time. Grace watches in awe as the circle expands. She announces that its purifying energy has reached all the way to Bauman. Filia's body begins to glow, but the immense pressure forces her to collapse to her knees. Grace congratulates her, amazed at the result. Oswald wonders if this means Gertonia is now safe, but Filia reveals that it isn't. Before she can explain, Urza steps in. She confirms that the ritual failed to fully reach Gertonia. The magic only covered the western half of the continent, leaving the eastern region untouched. Grace asks if their magical power simply wasn't strong enough, but Filia explains that the issue wasn't power. The mana in the east is far more disrupted than she had expected, which blocked the circle's expansion. Filia is struck by panic and guilt. She wants to save Mia, and yet time is slipping away. In that moment, she realizes that the only way to truly reach Gertonia now is to go there herself and raise a pillar of light from within. Prince Oswald hesitates, saying that if Filia leaves the capital, the Great Purification Circle will collapse. Grace is alarmed and asks if there's another way. Filia quickly tells Grace that since their magic is now linked, Grace can take over the core for a while, which would allow her to leave. But in her heart, Filia wonders if that would be appropriate for the Saint of Paracorda. Grace firmly grabs Filia's hand and insists she must go. Filia looks at them, unsure. But then Prince Reinhardt steps in and objects. Oswald tries to protest, but Reinhardt explains that he can't allow the Saint of Paracorda to involve herself in another kingdom's conflict and risk her life. With the failure of the circle's expansion, he plans to withdraw the knights when needed. Despite understanding Filia's for her sister, he says that she must prioritize his kingdom's safety, even if it makes her hate him. Urza supports Reinhardt's decision, saying it's already too late. Gertonia will soon fall under the demon realm, and the rebirth of the archdemon Asmodeus is almost guaranteed. They can't let Filia run into that danger. Mammon chimes in, reminding them that Asmodeus is after the soul of the legendary saint within Filia. Urza warns that if they lose her, the circle will collapse and the world will fall to the demon realm. Filia quietly says she knew that leaving would mean abandoning her role as saint. But if she doesn't go, Mia will die. Oswald calls to her, reminding her not to shoulder this burden alone. He tells her to remember what his father said, to be more selfish. Filia closes her eyes, thinking. She just wants to save her sister. Aloud, she cries out that she wants to save Mia, no matter what happens to her. Oswald smiles and tells her that's all he needed to hear. He'll get her where she needs to go. Prince Reinhardt steps forward, warning them that what they are about to do could lead to their deaths. But without wasting time, Oswald takes Filia's hand and urges her to move quickly. As they disappear into the distance, Mammon questions whether they should be stopped. But Urza, seeing how determined they were, admits that there was likely no stopping them now. Oswald carries Filia on horseback. At the same time, chaos is unfolding in Gertonia as knights fight desperately against an overwhelming horde of monsters. Himari stands in front of Mia, determined to protect her at all costs, while Mia focuses on maintaining a barrier to buy them some time. But despite her efforts, she soon finds herself surrounded. Just then, the Paracorda knights arrive, cutting through the monsters and pushing back the tide of battle. Mia realizes it was her sister's doing. Encouraged, Mia prepares to cast another barrier, but it suddenly shatters before she can act. Himari, recalling Filia's instructions to protect Mia if things became dire, wonders if that time has come. As she reaches out to grab Mia, she is stunned by the frightening look in her eyes. Mia steps forward, thoughts racing. Then, she unleashes a powerful spell, Silver Judgment, obliterating the surrounding monsters. The Paracorda knights rally behind her. But as Mia pushes forward, she feels the weight of her actions, and the happiness she believes she doesn't deserve. Her mind drifts back to a conversation from a few days ago, where the Marquis's son had warned Pierre to stop Mia if necessary. He had explained that Mia carried deep self-loathing, blaming herself for everything her sister endured. Driven by vengeance, she had even turned it inward. Back in the present, Pierre calls out to her. Mia, with tears in her eyes, smiles and apologizes to her sister. The Marquis's son had feared this moment. Mia was using her saintly mission as a way to punish herself. She had resolved that this would be the day she died. Meanwhile, Oswald and Filia continue their rapid journey. Filia points out a plateau ahead, planning to use it to raise a pillar and expand the Great Purification Circle. Oswald acknowledges her plan, and Filia, with worry in her heart, prays they will arrive in time to save Mia. Back on the battlefield, Mia is pushing herself to the brink. Still, she refuses to give up. Determined to protect as many people as she can, she chooses to burn her own life energy to create more magic, a forbidden technique. With that sacrifice, she casts a powerful spell called Judgment Arrow and completely wipes out the monsters. Pierre, witnessing this, is horrified. He realizes they can't afford to lose her. He immediately gives the order to the knights, protect Saint Mia and defend the kingdom of Dratonia. Following his command, the knights charge forward into battle. Meanwhile, Mia collapses, completely exhausted. But then, she hears a voice calling her name. Slowly, she opens her eyes and sees her sister standing before her. She believes they will be safe now. The horde of monsters charges toward them, but Filia steps forward and unleashes her own powerful spell, Silver Judgment, annihilating the threat in an instant. Mia, even in her weak state, feels proud. Seeing the monsters weaken, Himari calls out to the knights to take this opportunity and finish them off. Meanwhile, Filia works to heal her sister. Oswald asks how things look, and Filia, now trembling with emotion, swears that she will save her. But Mia's heartbeat is fading. Panicking but determined, Filia adjusts her spell's circulation and begins casting Saint Heal with all the power she has left. As her magic spreads in radiant waves, she whispers for her sister to wake up, hoping it will be enough. She is scared, terrified that Mia won't come back. Filia holds back her tears and says firmly that she will not give up. She casts Saint Heal again, light pouring from her hands across the battlefield. Finally, Mia's eyes flutter open. She whispers her sister's name. Filia, overwhelmed with emotion, hugs her tightly. She is so relieved to see her alive. Mia, still weak, says that her sister's embrace feels so warm. Filia had always been so devoted to her duties as a saint that Mia never believed she'd return. But Filia makes it clear she isn't here as a saint. She came back as her sister. Mia, through tears, opens up. When Filia left for Paracorda, Mia was devastated. But more than that, she had been angry. Angry at everyone who had taken Filia for granted. But today, Mia had become a true saint. From a distance, Mammon quietly notes that it had been the right decision not to stop Filia from coming back. Urza, standing beside him, shrugs and claims it was probably just luck. At the royal castle, where a knight urgently reports that Prince Julius has escaped, orders are quickly issued to search every corner of the kingdom for him. Meanwhile, deep beneath the castle, Julius races through the ancient underground chambers where the archdemon Asmodeus was once sealed away. He refuses to accept defeat. Finally, he arrives at his goal, the Ring of Asmodeus, a symbol of forbidden power long buried to prevent its return. Julius picks it up and declares his intent to take revenge on Mia for what he sees as betrayal. A surge of dark energy bursts from the ring, wrapping around his body. Julius's eyes widen as the darkness overtakes him completely. Back at the palace, Filia reflects on how strange it feels to be back. Oswald, standing beside her, says they managed to avoid the worst possible outcome. Filia agrees, acknowledging that it was only possible because of his support. Mia, nearby, watches the two and smiles. She remarks that she's never seen her sister so friendly with a man before. She teases that she never imagined Filia would find someone she liked during her time away. Oswald is flustered, but doesn't exactly deny it, while Filia tries to stop Mia from saying such things, worried she's embarrassing Oswald. He quickly adds that he doesn't really mind the comment. Mia jokingly says she prefers Oswald far more than their so-called prince. As they reach the king's chamber, they are shocked, the king, unconscious, lying on the floor. All eyes shift to the throne, and sitting there is none other than Julius. He greets Filia, calling her his destined one. Something has changed in him, something dark and unnatural. Mia quickly asks if they are all right. Struggling to speak, Crown Prince Ferdinand warns Mia to run away, mentioning that Julius has called upon dark power. Suddenly, with a mocking smile, Julius greets Filia, calling her his destined one and expressing how pleased he is to see her again. As the wounded king and crown prince are carried away by the soldiers for treatment, Julius turns his attention fully to Filia. Filia stares at him coldly and asks why he is pretending to be Prince Julius. At that moment, the voice of Asmodeus, the archdemon, is revealed. He admits that there is no special reason for the disguise, only that he thought Filia would find it easier to accept him if he appeared human rather than as a demon. Prince Oswald, confused, turns to Filia and asks what has happened to Prince Julius. Filia explains that the prince has been possessed by Asmodeus, the archdemon. Asmodeus sighs in annoyance, realizing they have an exorcist with them as well. Mammon greets him casually, calling him old and joking about his appearance. Asmodeus says that Mammon has fallen so low he now serves as a familiar to an exorcist, which is shameful for their kind. He then turns back to Filia and apologizes for the interruption, claiming that this noise is ruining his romantic words to her. Because of this, he declares his intent to destroy everyone else in the room. With a wave of dark power, Asmodeus summons shadow creatures. Urza explains that they are Asmodeus shadows, low-ranking demons. As the creatures charge forward, Urza swiftly slashes them down. Filia follows with her Silver Judgment spell, wiping out the rest of the shadows. But the victory is short-lived, as Asmodeus summons yet another group of the shadow demons. Urza comments on the endless waves and gives orders to Mammon. Mammon shifts into his true form, a large cat, and Urza quickly climbs onto his back. She casts a powerful spell called Exorcism Technique, Demon Devouring Crow, summoning black crows that strike and tear apart a group of the shadow soldiers. Watching the fight, Lena admires Mammon's appearance and playfully calls him cute in his transformed form. Then, they all charge to fight, with Prince Oswald leading the charge. First, Himari uses her ninja technique, Art of Fire Escape, burning many shadows to ash. Lena attacks next with an anti-demonic weapon, finishing off the remaining scorched creatures. The butler dashes into the fray with incredible speed, taking down 100 shadows in a single powerful kick. Finally, Prince Oswald enters the fight, swinging his halberd with strength and skill, impressed by the weapon Filia had prepared for him. Mia watches in awe at their fierce battle, but her distraction leaves her open as a group of shadows sneaks up behind her. Before they can strike, a silver judgment spell blasts them away. Mia turns and is stunned to see her aunt, Hildegard, standing behind her. Asmodeus watches with irritation, complaining that he only wanted a quiet place to talk but now must deal with this trouble. The dark energy around him grows stronger and heavier. Hildegard calls Mia and Filia, and together, the three of them cast Holy Shield. A surge of dark light bursts from the castle like an explosion of power. But everyone is saved, thanks to the Holy Shield. Prince Oswald thanks Filia. Mia stands there, surprised by the power they had just witnessed, while Hildegard calmly remarks that such strength was to be expected from the archdemon who nearly destroyed the world 400 years ago. Mammon added that since he was using a human host, his revival was still incomplete. Urza realized this meant they had only one chance to defeat him. Filia stepped forward, declaring that he was the cause of all this chaos and that they would defeat him here. But Asmodeus showed no fear. He said he had hoped to take Filia away while keeping her beauty intact, but now had a different plan. He suddenly attacked. Mia raised her holy shield just in time to block the strike, but the shield shattered instantly as another attack came flying toward her. Hildegard quickly moved to shield Mia, getting captured instead. Asmodeus recognized her. Although not the hostage he wanted, he touched her and began reading her memories. He said he could see everything about her, even secrets she tried to hide. Turning to Filia, Asmodeus revealed a shocking truth. He claimed that the people Filia thought were her parents had actually stolen her from her real mother to protect their family's bloodline. Filia was stunned, unable to understand. He continued, saying even her little sister knew this truth. Hildegard shouted at Filia to abandon her, declaring herself unworthy of being called a mother after having abandoned her own child. After a moment, Filia made her decision. She declared she would not abandon her teacher and stepped forward without hesitation. Everyone called out to her, Hildegard, Mia, Urza, but Filia ignored them all. Urza and Mammon prepared their counterattack. The demon scoffed, knowing the spell wouldn't harm him, but Mammon smirked, revealing that it was only meant as a distraction. Taking advantage of this, Urza rushed in and rescued Hildegard. Filia ran to her teacher's side to make sure she was safe. But Asmodeus moved too fast. In an instant, he appeared before Urza and prepared to strike. Without thinking, Filia leapt in front of her and took the blow herself. Asmodeus looked down at Filia. He said her body was too damaged to use, but that he had a far better vessel ready, one more fitting for Filia's soul. With that, he vanished from the castle, taking Filia with him. The battle was over. Urza blamed herself for not being strong enough to stop it. After the battle, a quiet moment settled before Prince Oswald stepped forward and asked Urza if, as an exorcist, she had any way to locate Filia. Urza confirmed she could, which surprised Mia, who eagerly asked where her sister was. Himari warned Urza not to keep secrets, but the butler gently reminded her not to threaten people, though even he admitted that his concern for his mistress was making it hard to stay calm. Urza finally explained that Asmodeus' true form was hiding in Limbo, the space between the human world and the demon realm. His plan was to use Filia's soul to resurrect the legendary archsaint, Fianna. Meanwhile, in Asmodeus' residence, Filia lay gravely injured. Asmodeus stood beside her, telling her to hold on a little longer, promising that once her soul was released from her body, she would be free from pain. Asmodeus reached out to her, holding her hand gently. A bright light shone from her body, and to his shock, it was he who screamed in pain. Confused by what had happened, Asmodeus stumbled back. Filia quickly took the chance to cast a healing spell on herself. She explained that, by carefully watching Mammon, she had learned about the flow of magic inside demons. Knowing this, she injected her own magic into him, disrupting his energy and giving herself an opportunity to escape. Asmodeus stared at her, unable to understand why she would fight him when he claimed to love her so much and had come all this way for her. Filia ignored his words and prepared a finishing spell. But before she could strike, Asmodeus fled into his room and locked himself back in Gertonia. Prince Oswald turned to Urza again, saying she must know a way to reach Limbo. Urza admitted she did, but reminded him that affairs involving demons were the responsibility of exorcists like herself, not saints or royalty. Mammon added that with his teleportation magic, he could only take himself, Filia, and one other person. Urza grew angry with him for interfering, but Mammon reminded her that Filia had saved her life, and that it was only natural others would want to save her now. Prince Oswald immediately volunteered to go, but the butler firmly objected, insisting that it was his duty as Filia's butler to save her. Before he could finish, Mia stepped forward, declaring that she could not stand by, that she had to save her sister herself. Himari followed, saying it was her duty as Filia's retainer. Lena also spoke up, insisting that a maid's place was beside her mistress and begging to be taken along. Suddenly, a familiar voice interrupted them. It was Filia, speaking clearly. Everyone was shocked, especially Lena, who realized that Filia's voice was coming from the bracelet she wore. Filia explained that she had built a magical function into the bracelet to allow communication in emergencies like this. Nia called out to her sister, asking if she was alright and how her wound was. Filia gently assured her that she was fine now and apologized for making everyone worry. Prince Oswald said they were simply glad she was safe and asked if she could return to them. But Filia's voice turned serious as she said this might be the last time they spoke. Oswald was shocked and asked what she meant. Filia explained that before Asmodeus could regain his full power, she had to destroy him. Nia tried to stop her, saying even Filia could not defeat such a terrible monster alone. But Filia calmly said she would find a way. It was not impossible, and more than anything, she wished to return to Paracorda. Hildegard then spoke. Filia said she still had many questions, but more than anything, she was glad to know the truth at last. She promised that everything her master had taught her would not be in vain. Prince Oswald called to her once more, saying he would save her no matter what. He reminded her of the promise he had made just a few days ago, when he asked if they could go out together again for a meal once everything was over. But before he could say anything else, the connection between them was suddenly cut off. Oswald turned to Urza and begged her to take him to Filia. Urza reminded him again that she could not allow it, not even for him. But Oswald stood firm. Urza asked if Filia was really that important to him, enough that he would risk his life to save her. Oswald, without hesitation, said she was. Mia stepped forward, asking Urza to let Oswald go in her place. Though she wanted to go herself, she asked that Oswald be allowed to go instead. Oswald was surprised and grateful. Even Urza finally gave in, warning Oswald that there was no guarantee he would come back alive. Mammon prepared the teleportation spell and said they were ready to leave. As Oswald moved to join them, Hildegard called out, asking him to take care of her daughter. Oswald promised her that he would bring Filia back, so she could keep smiling with all of them. Mia watched him and thought to herself that she finally understood. This was the smile that had melted the ice around her sister's heart. Just then, shadow soldiers appeared again. Nia stepped forward and told Prince Oswald to leave these enemies to them. She and the others would handle this. Oswald gave them one last look, then hurried after Mammon and Urza, heading toward the place where Filia waited. Back in Asmodeus's residence, Filia cautiously stepped forward and was shocked to find Prince Julius lying unconscious on the ground. Asmodeus, watching her closely, casually remarked that he no longer needed Julius. His frail body was no longer useful to him. This, he said, is now my true form, the terrifying original being that had faced her 4 centuries ago. He called her not Filia, but by the name Fianna, the soul he had waited 400 long years to meet again. Now that the moment had come, he told her his desire to spend eternity with her by moving her soul into a perfect vessel. This vessel, he revealed, was a masterpiece crafted over 200 years by the finest doll makers to perfectly recreate Fianna's body. The ritual would begin with transferring her soul, then awakening Fianna's forgotten memories, sealed deep within. As Filia prepared to attack, Asmodeus sighed, saying he disliked force. He had hoped she would willingly give her soul. But then he pulled Julius forward, capturing the unconscious prince, and taunted Filia by asking if she would abandon this man or not. He seemed amused, reminding her how Julius had once let jealousy consume him, how he had mistreated and discarded her like worthless trash. Asmodeus claimed he could kill Julius right there if Filia wished, and that he would do so gladly. Filia Adenauer her choice. She told him she would surrender if he let Julius go. Asmodeus seemed pleased by her quick and unwavering decision, saying that this strength of spirit was exactly what he expected from her. But he made it clear he would bind her first. He couldn't risk her using magic against him again like before. Asmodeus laughed madly, certain that at last the soul of Fianna would be his, dark power swirling. He bound Filia tightly and gripped her face, savoring the moment. But suddenly, in a flash, Asmodeus's hand was severed. Standing there was Prince Oswald, sword in hand, declaring that he would not allow Asmodeus to take Filia. Seeing Oswald standing so bravely, Filia felt hope spark within her heart. She had believed, she had known, that Prince Oswald, with his honest and steadfast heart, would come to save her. And because of that, she once again had a reason to hope. Prince Oswald struck Asmodeus, cutting off his arm. Asmodeus screamed in pain but refused to give up, furious that a human would dare to interfere with his plans. As Oswald held her, she felt safe, but there was no time to rest. Asmodeus quickly regenerated his arm, showing that he was far from defeated. Soon after, Urza and Mammon arrived, standing beside Oswald and Filia. Together, they faced the archdemon Asmodeus. Prince Oswald and Urza charged towards Asmodeus without fear, while Filia cast Silver Judgment, combining her attack with Mammon's dark matter. But Asmodeus blocked both spells with ease. As Prince Oswald clashed with Asmodeus, the demon unleashed his demonic power, overpowering them effortlessly. Filia quickly rushed to Oswald's side to check if he was alright. Realizing the danger, Filia cast Holy Shield to protect everyone. Prince Oswald felt the difference in strength. Filia realized that the demon had fully regained his true form. Urza agreed and warned that Asmodeus could not be allowed to return to the surface. Mammon tried to stop her from thinking about sacrificing herself, but Urza declared that she would gladly give her life to save the world. Filia came up with a desperate plan, hoping to make Asmodeus drop his guard for even a second. She warned him that if he let let his power go wild, it could harm the Fianna doll. He claimed he no longer cared what happened to her body. Suddenly, Asmodeus released his deadly spell Catastrophe. Filia strengthened her shield, but the force was too much. Oswald quickly jumped in front of Filia to protect her, taking the full impact. The others were knocked unconscious by the blast, leaving only Filia awake, exhausted and on her knees, her magic almost gone. But Filia refused to give up. She reached out to Oswald, but Asmodeus stepped on her hand. Pinning her to the ground, he sensed her feelings for Oswald and became amused, threatening to tear the prince apart in front of her. As Filia started to lose consciousness, faces of the people she cared about filled her mind. Just then, a voice called her name. In her fading awareness, she saw Archsaint Fianna Eastville standing before her. The saint gently apologized for the trouble caused by her imperfect seal and entrusted her remaining power to Filia. Their mana combined in Filia's body as she was lifted into the air, glowing with divine strength. Asmodeus was stunned, recognizing the familiar power. Fianna calmly warned him not to harm the world again and cast Saint Heal to revive the unconscious Prince Oswald, Urza, and Mammon. As they awoke, relieved to find each other alive, Filia descended, telling them to leave Asmodeus to her. But he laughed, mocking the idea that a mere human could stop him, and began unsealing his strongest spell. Before he could finish, Filia cast Silver Judgment, striking him and forcing him to halt in shock, unable to believe she was faster than him. Without hesitation, Filia bit her finger, letting a drop of blood fall to the ground. A huge magic circle appeared beneath Asmodeus. His confidence turned to fear. Filia gripped the sword, declaring that this time, he would not escape with just the seal. He panicked, begging her to stop. She slashed him with the holy sword, and his soul was shattered forever. Then, Fianna doll crumbled, thanking Filia for saving the world. Filia accepted this as nothing more than the duty of a saint. Filia was about to collapse from exhaustion, but Prince Oswald gently caught her. Urza interrupted, telling him this gloomy place was no good for such words and to choose somewhere with a better atmosphere. Suddenly, the unconscious Prince Julius woke up, confused about where he was. He noticed Filia and angrily blamed her, claiming she was the reason Mia had betrayed him and calling her cold-hearted. Julius grinned, saying it was the perfect chance to use his new power, but then panicked when he realized it was gone. Julius demanded to know who he was and to let him go. Mammon smirked, saying he usually preferred to feed on the disdain of beautiful ladies but wouldn't mind munching on a brat like him for a change, revealing his true demonic form. Mammon then casted a teleportation spell to carry Julius away. Prince Oswald gently lifted Filia and said it was time to return to the others. As they returned, Mia ran up and hugged Filia tightly. Filia gently apologized for making her worry, but Mia only smiled, saying she was simply glad her sister was back. Back at the castle, soldiers worked hard repairing the damages from the battle. Prince Ferdinand stood nearby, calmly giving instructions to help speed the process. The Knights of Paracorda also returned safely after the fierce fight. Later, Filia visited Hildegard Adenauer. Seeing Filia, Hildegard welcomed her warmly and prepared tea. She admitted, with some guilt, that she had kept the truth hidden for too long and asked for forgiveness. But Filia reassured her, saying that Mia had already explained what happened and that she was never truly alone. Hildegard had given her strength, teaching her how to live not only as a saint but as a person. Filia said she owed everything. Filia then admitted there was still more she wished to know, things she had always wondered about after learning that Hildegard was her real mother. Curious, she asked about her real father. Hildegard was briefly surprised by the question but understood her curiosity. She explained that Filia's father had been a gifted healer with great skill in mending wounds. Sadly, he had passed away during an epidemic but had worried about Filia until his final breath. Still curious, Filia asked how her parents had met, what their relationship had been like, and how they came to be married. Hildegard smiled, but with a kind expression. Hildegard promised to tell Filia everything, saying that she had always intended to answer any question her daughter asked. Later, during dinner, the butler proudly presented the meal, saying he had prepared seafood knowing it was Hildegard's favorite, thanks to Saint Filia informing him. Mia was surprised to learn this and asked Filia if she always ate so much. Filia smiled and admitted that since coming to Paracorda, she had grown used to such delicious food, thanks to Leonardo's cooking. When it was time to leave, Prince Oswald gently spoke to Filia. He offered to help if she wished to return, but Filia shook her head, saying she would not go back. As he watched the carriages leaving, Mammon quietly suggested that Urza give Filia a proper farewell, but she refused, believing that as long as Filia remained the greatest, their paths would cross again someday. Meanwhile, back at the castle, Prince Ferdinand spoke with Mia, mentioning how many people urged him to convince Filia to return. But Mia said she had no right to ask that and that it would be shameless of her to do so. Ferdinand agreed. He admitted that the blame for sending Filia away did not rest with Julius alone but with everyone who failed to stop him, including himself. Mia told him that wasting time on regret would be meaningless now. Ferdinand smiled and called her incredible. Back in Paracorda, Crown Prince Reinhardt stood in silence, praying before Elizabeth's grave. Filia approached him and apologized, but Prince Reinhardt gently told her not to apologize, understanding her desire to save the people she loved in her homeland. 1 month later, during a gathering of saints, Mia happily ran to greet her sister. Filia smiled, glad to see Mia healthy, and also greeted Hildegard. who admitted she still wasn't used to being called mother. Nearby, Emily and her sister arrived. Emily proudly declared herself as the star of the Saint Summit that gathered all saints in one place. Mia, curious, asked who she was. Filia explained that she was Emily Metales, the saint of Bomber, and though they had never met, she was known to be among the strongest saints. Hildegard added that, in terms of power, Emily was likely closest to Filia, though her personality was the complete opposite. Suddenly, Grace rushed over, hugging Filia. She happily looked forward to spending more time with Filia, who gently praised her hard work and said she enjoyed teaching her. Mia suddenly remembered something important and mentioned that she had a present for Filia as thanks for the hairpin she had received. Later, while trying on the dress Mia had gifted her, the maid Lena admired how perfect it looked on Filia. Lena teased that Prince Oswald would be so distracted by her appearance that he might forget to eat. Filia grew flustered. Himari confidently added that he would surely compliment her. Filia quietly hoped they were right. The butler Leonardo chuckled softly, saying she was still so young and should simply enjoy herself. Filia pouted, telling him it was no laughing matter, but Leonardo gently said he was just relieved to see her act her age for once, as he always liked to take the long view. Filia wondered aloud if this really was how someone her age should behave. Meanwhile, Prince Oswald waited outside. When Filia stepped out in her dress, he was momentarily stunned by her beauty. Filia nervously called out to him, but he simply told her she looked splendid. He admitted he couldn't help but stare, finding her truly beautiful. Filia blushed deeply at his words. The scene shifted to a quiet restaurant where they dined together. Prince Oswald softly reminded Filia of the promise he made when she first arrived in Paracorda, that he would work hard to make her love his country. Filia smiled, remembering it well. She told him that since then, she had made many memories, met many wonderful people, and truly come to love this country. As the Saint of Paracorda, she wanted to continue protecting it. Prince Oswald felt happy hearing this and confessed that he loved this country, its people, and Filia Adenauer as well. Tears welled up in Filia's eyes. Prince Oswald quickly apologized, fearing he had surprised her, but Filia shook her head, saying she was crying out of happiness. She explained softly that she had once read tears could flow when someone felt great joy. Oswald smiled, amused by how she could calmly analyze even her own tears, but told her he loved that unique part of her too. Filia asked if he truly loved the strange way she thought and spoke. Oswald replied that such things were what made him fall in love with her. At last, Filia understood. She realized that to love someone was indeed a wonderful feeling. For the first time in the entire story, a gentle, pure smile spread across her face. That concludes the anime recap. As always, if you enjoyed, let me know down below and I'm out.